Oh, happy days, yes. We need some happy days, do we not? Yes, I think we do. So I am very excited to be delving into the prosperity secrets of Moses for the next few weeks. He was one of the wealthiest men in the Bible. And I'm using Catherine Ponder's book, The Secrets of a Millionaire Moses. A great book. We are looking at a truly fascinating metaphysical code of this biblical story and unveiling the mysteries that Moses knew on an ongoing, unlimited prosperity. He knew this in his very consciousness. And metaphysical code and mysteries are as applicable as they could be and as they are here in 2021 as they were 3,500 or so years ago. It's always the same. Truth never changes. Universal truth never changes. Not only are they applicable now, they are vital right now. Because we are at a time in the evolution of humankind where we need to be clear and honest about our prosperity consciousness. What are we truly believing? As I said last week, it is time that we finally mastered this one so that we can really start demonstrating important things in our lives, so we can be the best that we can be, just showing up in life, that we can express, individualize the brilliance of the divine as and through us. Are we sharing our gifts in the world? Because we all have gifts. We all have gifts. And I ask you, are we well, I'm not asking you. We are spending, I'm kind of telling you, we're spending the next few weeks looking at some ancient codes and practices to master this prosperity thing. Because we're always hearing about it. Let's master it. Let's feel that prosperity. Today we're going to look at the prosperity lessons contained in two miracles that occurred in the third 40-year period in Moses' life. Now, we went over last week the 3 40-year periods, so with 3 of them. And does anyone remember what 40 represents? Seriously? Did anyone hear last week? Okay. All the time it needs for transformation to occur. 40 represents, in biblical terms, and also in our lives, all the time it needs for transformation to occur. So briefly, a brief synopsis of the 3 40-year periods. The first was in Egypt, where 3 important things happened to Moses. First, he became accustomed to opulence. Second, he learned the great secrets of manifesting. And third, he learned what happens when you try to force your way to make things happen, which is what got him tossed out of Egypt in the last part of those 40 years, which began his second 40-year period. It was the Median Desert, where he connected with, for the first time, the God of his being, and listened to this inner voice as it revealed itself to him. It's basically a time of meditation for him, of meditating about the great I am, the burning bush, I am that I am, occurred to him. And then the last 40-year period in the wilderness, where he demonstrated and taught all that he learned, despite challenges, obstacles, and setbacks, which occur all the time in our lives. We're living life. So it's a really brilliant example for us. And Catherine Ponder is a fabulous prosperity teacher and speaker. If you have not heard of her before, she's fantastic. So today we're going to focus on some of the prosperity lessons learned in that wilderness period. Right at the onset of their move into this abundant part of life, they were leaving as slavery into freedom and abundance. The Israelites needed two seemingly impossible things to occur. They needed two miracles. These two miracles will be our context for today, our context and our content for today. First, when the Pharaoh changed his mind about letting them go and sent his army after them, they met a huge obstacle in their attempt to get away. And what was it? What was the first big obstacle? A vast body of water. Yes, the Red Sea. How to get across it to escape. The Israelites' options were to walk into the sea and surely drown, or stay and subtly and surely be killed by the Egyptians. That was the first miracle they needed. Second, assuming that the first miracle really did occur, they escaped the Egyptians, then they would need substance. They would need manna. They would need something to sustain them, water and food to sustain them, more than that even, to sustain them for their ongoing, they didn't know how long it was going to be, 40 years, in the wilderness. So clearly in this physical realm, it was impossible to escape from the Egyptians, and it was equally impossible to have enough substance to sustain them if they did. Yet, they did escape from the Egyptians, and they had plenty of food and water for a journey that turned out to be much, much, much longer than anyone thought. And so let's look at these two miracles and have them teach us about building our prosperity consciousness. And I want to take them in reverse order. So the first one is gathering manna. The second one is crossing the sea. So gathering manna. Catherine Ponder defines manna as any needed substance that seems miraculously supplied. And the dictionary also defines it that way. And she writes this: anytime you have a challenge in your life, especially in a financial form, you need to know how to meet that need by gathering manna. When you learn how to, your need is often supplied, she says, in a miraculous way, as were the needs of the Hebrews during this wilderness experience. See, she suggested a number of ways that we can put ourselves in the position to gather manna, and we will look at three of these ways. First, gather your manna by speaking forth definite, rich words of supply, even, especially, in face of apparent lack. That's when our lessons really come in. When it looks like lack and limitation is our life, is to see past that and to know that we are always limitlessly supplied in all ways. She writes this is what she writes. One of the quickest ways to gather your manna is by calling on divine substance through repeated prosperity decrees spoken aloud. This stirs up the wealth of the universe and causes it to be manifested for you in the appropriate form. So in your life. So we might ask ourselves, so what is divine substance? What is that? So remember, this is an abundant universe. That's a belief. That's a belief we teach, that's a belief we hold. And hopefully that's a belief that we all can really embody. It lacks for nothing. Substance is God's universal source, supply. It is everything and is always present. invisible like everything is invisible. Emotions are invisible. God is invisible. This energetic form of life, this substance, is invisible, but it's present. We manifest through our consciousness. The law of good that is formless and takes the form of what we put into it through our thoughts, our emotions, and our words. We create constantly, and a lot of the times we are creating unconsciously. So this is about bringing conscious creation to be really aware of what we are thinking, speaking, and feeling. Because this becomes our reality. This becomes the things that show up in our life, our demonstration, if you will. There is nothing new about this practice for centuries. It's going on forever. People have metaphysically gathered manna by dwelling upon the thoughts of substance, upon the law of good. If you take the foundation class, which we're offering, you will find out about the law and the creative process and how it really works. Because it is so powerful to know the law of God is always giving us back what we give and what we think and feel and speak into it. And don't worry if you don't have immediate results from your words. It took Moses over 80 years. So we don't have 80 years, maybe some of us do. But we can, time is irrelevant here, reverend here. But as you work these principles, it can happen so much quicker than that. It doesn't, if it doesn't, it may be because we might be doing this. So we spend 15 minutes, maybe a little longer in the morning, and we meditate, and we do our affirmations for the day, and we do affirmative prayer, and we are all set for the day. And then, and usually subconsciously, sometimes consciously, those few minutes a day are not going to hold when the rest of the time we are doing the exact opposite. We negate what we have already established as our intention for the day. And I love this passage from Dr. Ernest Holmes in Love and Law, one of his books. He says this: we cannot make affirmations for 15 minutes and then spend the other 23 hours and 45 minutes denying the very thing that we have affirmed. The thing we have denied and obtained the results that we seek. We send out the word and it sets in motion the power. But if we begin to think the opposite thing, it neutralizes the word and destroys any possibility of its effect. So if we are affirming that we are having a glorious, beautiful, wonderful day, and we just absolutely are filled with love, and then the minute we get in our car, we start to have an argument, and maybe inside the car, and we kind of neutralize the entire day by, we're not coming from love, are we? When we start yelling and maybe honking our horns or something in the car. No. So already we've neutralized the very thing that we have affirmed, whatever it is that we've affirmed. So it's a discipline. It truly is a discipline to stay aligned and know that we are truly creators of our experience. And remember that we are retraining our thinking. That's what we are doing with this teaching. Retraining our thinking so that we can clearly manifest what we want. What we want. This is non-judgmental energy. That's what we call God and energy that we're speaking of here. And that brings us to the second part of this. Gather your manna by using something close at hand to meet your needs. And I've said it this way: do all you can with what you have where you are. It's all we can do. And I know that some of you have made this your motto: do all that you can with what you have from where you are. So this morning I'd like to rearrange it just a little bit and add an addendum to it. Do all that you can where you are with what you have, and you can always have more than you know. Because doesn't the universe always outpicture anything we can manifest for ourselves? Once we set that intention of what it is we want for our lives, it usually, when we let go and let God, it usually turns out so much better. So much better. So often we don't gather our good because we don't realize the sources are internal and external. They're not just out there. It all begins within us, our consciousness. And so that's where we start, where we already are. And then our needs will get met. Catherine Ponder suggests we begin by saying, divine substance, show me how to gather my manna. Lead me to the abundance at hand. Show me how to use it and how to multiply it. It's all in the consciousness. It's all an inside job. It always will be. And our third idea for gathering manna is by doing something fearless, which takes us directly to the crossing of the Red Sea. That was a pretty big order right there, which is our second miracle of this morning that we're going to discuss. So this practice is doing double duty. Double duty. You have, and have you ever done something that was so fearless that once you did it, amazing things occurred for you? Just amazing things because you did it. You actually took the step, a little step. It doesn't have to be a leap. Sometimes it is a leap. When we have the faith and trust, though, that's the key, that the universe will always be there to support us. That is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. When we get that kind of faith, when we know that we are not alone, that we are so much more than our physical forms and our physical thoughts. So crossing the Red Sea, when Jehovah told Moses that he had to go to the Pharaoh and demand freedom for the Hebrews, Moses was afraid. He was afraid. And he had an excuse, really good excuse. I have an impediment, he said. I think it was a stuttering. I'm not a good speaker. What are our excuses but our fears diagnosed or disguised as reasons? We always have good reasons. We do this with ourselves, do we not? I do. I always have a really good reason. Well, no, I don't want to do that because, and then the reason forms within my mind, and it's so much better when we just do it fearlessly. But God is always, always, always with us to help us, to guide us, to direct us, and move us through any kind of fear, because fear is a human quality. It's not a divine quality. And this is symbolized by God sending Moses' brother Aaron to help. Aaron stands for strength. The name Aaron stands for strength. It took great strength for Moses to appear before the Pharaoh, asking for freedom. That's what he was asking for, freedom. Especially when his requests were not always granted. But by having to do what he feared a number of times, by speaking of freedom over and over again to himself, over and over again, Moses gained that inner strength. We can do that. And he gained that inner strength that he would need later. Not only to get the Hebrews out of bondage, but to keep them out. That's for us. We have to repeat things over and over. It's an affirmation over and over again because we're changing old thought patterns. When we do something we are afraid of, you gain an inner strength that was not there before. When you were afraid, yet do it anyway, you break through an invisible wall that has kept you small and weak for so long. Just doing it anyway, without an excuse, or with an excuse. Just keep doing it. Here's something really, really important for you to know. nothing happened. The Red Sea did not part. The miracle did not happen until the Hebrews did something very fearless. And what was that? They had to walk into the sea. Nothing happened as they merely stood there looking at it. It wasn't just going to part in front. It didn't. They had to walk into the sea from a distance, waiting for it to part, and thinking that when it did, then they would go through it onto dry land. That was not it at all. At Moses' command, they went forward into the water, wasn't parted, and only then did it part. Only then did it part. They believed in Moses. They believed that God had spoken and imparted to him this gift of truth. And they believed in him. And through that belief, they were able to walk through and the waters divided. They did the fearless thing. And then the sea parted. And that's how it works. That's how it works in life. It takes courage to live this life anyway. But it takes great courage to do something that we were formerly afraid of. There is only one way to find out, as Nike said, just do it. So when challenges confront you, don't run from them. Don't try to avoid them. Don't get all excited about them. Simply face them. Just face them. And the prosperity lesson here, because there's a prosperity lesson in all of these teachings, is that challenge will divide and will open up for you. It will open up more good than you can imagine by stepping out with courage. You will pass through divinely protected. We say that. We're always divinely protected to your new good. Perhaps you're trying to cross a Red Sea of financial difficulties right now. That could be one. Perhaps you're in the need of gathering manna. If so, do this fearless act. So we're going to do something. Then get a mental, what I want you to do right now, so you can close your eyes if you want, is to get a mental idea or picture of something. It could be health, it could be relationships, it could be monetary, it could be anything. Something that's holding you back from something you really want to do. Now face it squarely in the face and repeat this after me. You do not scare me.
You do not scare me.
Then stretch forth your great rod of power by saying, and this is with your eyes closed, and put your hands over your heart. It's always good. And repeat this after me. Divine substance can never be withheld from me.
Divine substance can never be withheld from me.
Divine substance is the one and only reality.
Divine substance is the one and only reality.
Divine substance is doing its bountiful work here and now.
Divine substance is doing its bountiful work here and now.
I use what I have.
I use what I have.
To multiply my good.
To multiply my good.
Knowing this, I have fearless faith.
Knowing this, I have fearless faith.
That every need is now met.
That every need is now met.
Knowing this, I have fearless faith that every need is now met.
Knowing this, I have fearless faith that every need is now met.
Just breathe into that. With the eyes still closed, hands over your heart. Breathe in the energy of faith right now. Breathe in the energy of divine substance, God in the great unformed. Right here and right now, feel it. Bring it completely into the very beingness of your heart. And in this moment, once again, get a picture of whatever the situation that you might be facing right now is. It might have frightened you. And say powerfully and softly, you don't scare me.
You don't scare me.
Nope. I am going to repeat this for you to listen. with your mind and with your heart. Just recited it, but I am going to repeat it for you to really get it deep into your subconscious. Divine substance can never be withheld from me. Divine substance is the one and only reality. Divine substance is doing its bountiful work here and now. I use what I have to multiply my good. Knowing this, I have fearless faith that every need is now met. Knowing this, I have fearless faith that every need is now met. And knowing this, I have fearless faith that every need is now met. Just breathe that in. Knowing this to be truth spoken, I simply say, and so it is. And you can say that too. And so it is. Yes.